happy Sibling Shanty Sunday!
I'm Sky.
I'm Sagan.
And we're siblings.
And we sing sea shanties and sea shanty adjacent music.
And it's week 3.
It is week 3.
Woo-hoo! Made it to week 3.
Yep.
Hope you've had a good week and that you're ready for some more sea shanty action. Or something.
So the first shanty that we've got for you here is a hauling shanty, and this one is sort of its subtype is what's called a bunting shanty or a furling shanty. This is a fairly
like
even
stuff you would decorate the town square with back in the day. It's a bird o'clock.
We have a clock that makes bird noises.
Yep. It's still going.
It's still going. It's fine.
So no, not bunting you would decorate.
Not exactly.
The town square.
Not exactly.
No.
No. So not entirely.
Sort of. I mean, it's related.
Anyway, getting to actually doing it. So this is even among sea shanties, this is a fairly niche sort of subgenre purpose, what have you. That was used for furling the shanties, furling the sails. So sailors would stand aloft up on foot ropes and would lean over the yard that the sail was sort of gathered up into, and would I should say that it was bunched up into because as anyone who has ever just sort of pulled fabric together, it doesn't just come back together.
Fold itself back together.
It doesn't. You have to fold it or roll it yourself. And they would lean over, and this would be a smaller team. This wouldn't be sort of like a whole crew exercise like a lot of shanties were employed with. This would be a small crew, and as such, the shanty would actually be sung by everyone on the crew throughout, instead of like a shantyman leading everything and then people responding. And there would be sort of the period where they were gathering it up and rolling it into a bunt, or also sometimes called a sausage, sure. Because it looked like a sausage made out of canvas, and then would lash it into position on the last heave. So generally, they would only need one or two of these verses, because it had already been gathered up. They just sort of had to get it together. That was under good conditions, and conditions when the sail was wet and heavy because they'd been sailing through poor conditions, or they just had a lot of spray or what have you. The song could take on multiple verses, and so we've got multiple verses for you here. So it's called Paddy Doyle's Boots, sometimes just abbreviated to Paddy Doyle. So Paddy Doyle is not to be confused with Paddy West. They were both Irish boarding masters in Liverpool, but different in Liverpool, England. Correct, not the Liverpool we're from. Oh, excuse me. But different people lived in different time periods even. But not to be confused with one another. There's not a ton of terminology in here. There is something so the second to last verse features the line "for the crusty old man on the poop." So the old man was generally sailor terminology for the captain. Was the not necessarily the crusty old man, but the old man. Was generally the terminology for the captain. Wasn't necessary. It could be one of those things where it was like an insult or a term of affection, really depending on like
how they felt about that particular person at that moment in time.
Yeah, how you said the words.
Yep.
How you use the title. And when they're talking about the poop, they're talking about the poop deck. So the poop deck is actually the farthest back deck on the ship. In fact, there would be so on ships of that time period. There was oftentimes, and if you've seen movies like Pirates of the Caribbean or whatnot, you notice that at the back of the ship there's always like a cabin at the back, and there's a deck on top of that. That deck, that's the poop deck. the one that forms the roof of the cabin as part of the overall structure of the ship, and it gets that name actually from no silly from no silly humor, unless you don't have any respect for the French language like I do. Comes from the French word for stern, which is spelled LA space POUPE, which is le pou, which is probably how that's pronounced. Le pou. That's why I don't like the French language. Which comes from the Latin word puppus or pupus, perhaps PUPPIS. I took 1 year of Latin and then decided it was not for me because I wasn't able to successfully summon anything of interest. Poopies.
Latin vowels.
So that's why it's called the poop deck, is because of the French word for stern. There you have it. So
not because of seagulls.
Nope, not because of seagulls, not because of any sort of juvenile humor. The juvenile humor came afterwards.
Yes.
Yes. So this one, so the first line, it's they're sort of in couplet stanzas. The first line is always the same. And if you can blow me an A flat.
Sure.
So the first line is, to me, way, makes sense. And then the second line, melodically, it's always the same. Lyrically, it changes. And the lyrics are down below, so you can follow along with that. But there's one repeated line. It's both the first line, the first verse and the last verse of the song, that goes, "We'll pay Paddy Doyle for his boots." And that melody sort of is the common thread throughout the da 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 da. Even though in times when it was just a single heave, it probably would have sounded something more like da 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 da, for that heave on the
just like
final
my sound
word.
Effects from last week. See? Foreshadowing. Yep. Foreshadowing.
That's right, kids. And that's about it for this one. This one it's super simple, super easy, and everybody on the team would sing it. You ready?
Are you ready?
I suppose we'll find out.
Sing along.
To me, way, we'll pay Paddy Doyle for his boots. To me, way, and we will drink whiskey and gin. To me, way, and we will shave under the chin. To me, way, and we will throw muck at the cook. To me, way, for the crusty old man on the poop. To me, way, we'll pay Paddy Doyle for his boots. Yeah, that's it. That's about all there is. About all there is to. We do not recommend throwing muck at the cook.
Don't do that.
Don't antagonize those who prepare your food on a ship or in real life.
Right, ever.
Really.
No.
Ever. It's rude, and it's also a bad plan.
Yeah. Very bad life choices.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just that's not great.
Okay.
Anyway.
But this next song is good. Life choice.
Sure.
I attempted a transition, it didn't work.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's
but
fine.
we do like this one though. This is a fun one. We also like apple juice.
We do like apple juice. It's good. It helps keep the throat clear. Helps clear out things. But so this next one is a capstan shanty. It's a heaving shanty, and we've talked a little bit about the capstan before. The big circular thing that's used for about as close to automation as those ships, as those older ships got. Yep, using pulley systems to handle things that
would have been too heavy.
Would have been too heavy or too impractical. Like if you're raising a massive sail or something, yes, you could get the entire crew to raise it, or you could just get like 6 guys out of the whole crew to just walk around in a circle for like 4 minutes and raise it. Right. Anyway.
Same thing with the anchor. That way it's not particularly practical if you have one line and everybody's trying to pull up
Yeah,
the anchor.
yeah.
It just doesn't
Yeah,
work.
there's too many things on the ship that need doing at once. You
Yep.
got to multitask. So this one was collected in the 1800s, and it's called Rio Grande. Now, this one, it's a common misconception that it refers to the Rio Grande River that borders Mexico and the United States, but that's not actually true. It actually refers to the Brazilian state, Rio Grande do Sul, whose chief port goes by the same name. Was a very popular port during the Age of Sail that saw a lot of commerce, saw a lot of trade, and this song is about that port, as it were. There's a couple of terminologies. Wow, words. There's a little bit of terminology used in this one. There's something called White Stocking Day. And White Stocking Day, so generally when sailors went to sea, or I should say before the sailors actually went to sea, when they were first signing up, they would designate, if they had someone on land who they would support, whether it be a family member, a romantic partner, someone like that, someone they were in debt to. Anyway, they would designate someone who essentially they would split their paycheck in half with. And White Stocking Day was the day that essentially the on land half of that partnership would go down to the ship office and pick up their half of the check. And it was, especially in port towns where sailing was like the profession, it was a big deal. It was a big social deal, and so people would get gussied up in their Sunday best,
in their white stockings.
in their white stockings, which were like a real big, like we would wear white socks are like sort of like the bare minimum these days, but like white stockings back then, that was
pretty well.
That was a big deal.
Yep.
That was a big deal. Like I'm gonna wear my white stockings for this, and so White Stocking Day was that day. It was sort of a celebration, but also a chance to be. Oh, did you see who I went going down to the shipping office to pick up their blah blah blah? Did you see what they were wearing?
Did you see their white stockings?
Oh my gosh, I thought I saw an ankle. Anyway, so that's what White Stocking Day is. There's also, and this is actually a term that's come up in a couple of the other ones that we've done, is the term packet as a slang term for a ship. And that's because, not because ships are made of packets. You don't like unzip a packet and then pour it out into the water and then a ship pops up. That would be
cool.
It would be cool, but also incredibly impractical. Is that ships basically had two purposes. In that point was to get people from one place to the other, and it was to get mail packets from one place to the other. Whether that was your little letter correspondence or massive packages of sugar or spices or everything nices, whatever needed to get from one place to another. And so packet ships became shortened to packets. And so the two just essentially became synonymous with each other. So when the term packet is used for a ship, that's what that means.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
All these things that you never thought you needed to know.
Oh, and we haven't even gotten to the third one yet, which has a ton of terminology, which you have to understand to get part of the humor of the song.
Yes.
But we'll get to that in a second. So this one, as with a lot of captain shanties, it has a verse and a chorus pattern to it. There's call and responses in the verses, and then chorus, and then the chorus incorporates the call and responses as well. So blow an E for me. So the first response, Shantyman has one line, and the first response is, "Away, you Rio." Makes sense? And then the Shantyman has another line, and then it's, "For we're bound for the Rio Grande." I haven't been able to track down why singing Rio Grande instead of Rio Grande seems to be sort of like the historically
Yeah, you
accurate
do
way
hear
of
people
singing
singing
this
Rio
shanty,
Grande
but
as well too,
certainly
but not
as commonly as Rio
Yeah,
Grande. And I haven't been
yeah.
able to track down why
Probably had to do
necessarily that
with
is.
accents, and they just liked it that
I
way.
was gonna
Who
say, to
knows?
be honest, singing Rio is more satisfying to me than singing Rio,
Yeah,
just like vowel wise.
right.
But so those are the those are calls and responses, and then the chorus goes like this: and away, bullies, away, away, you Rio. Sing fare thee well, my Liverpool gals, for we're bound for the Rio Grande.
Easy.
Yeah, easy. And also the term bullies is another one. It's not talking about people who are like,
Beating you up and taking
beating
your
you
lunch
up or
money.
intimidating someone. Bullies is another one of those sort of the interchangeable words like me boys or me johnnies that refers to a bully in this case would be something good. So someone that
Right,
you had
term
a
of endearment,
positive,
yeah.
a term of endearment, someone you have a positive relationship with. And that's about all there is to this one.
Ready?
Get one more sip of apple, Joss. That's the second time today I've called this applesauce instead of apple juice.
Yeah. It's drinking his applesauce.
We'll see if I don't make it 3 before this video is over. Can you blow that me one more time? A ship went a sailing out over the bar. Away, you Rio! We pointed a nose for the southern star, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. And away, bullies, away, away, you Rio! Sing fare thee well, me Liverpool gals, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. Oh, say, was you ever down Rio Grande? Away, you Rio! It's there that the water runs down golden sands, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. And away, bullies, away, away, you Rio! Sing fare thee well, me Liverpool gals, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. We're sick of the town where our money has gone. Away, you Rio! We've signed on this packet to drive us along, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. And away, bullies, away, away, you Rio! Sing fare thee well, me Liverpool gals, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. So goodbye to Sally and goodbye to Sue. Away, you Rio! And you on the pierhead, well, goodbye to you, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. And away, bullies, away, away, you Rio! Sing fare thee well, my Liverpool gals, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. Cheer up, Mary Ellen, and don't look so glum. Away, you Rio! Come White Stocking Day, you'll be drinking hot rum, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. And away, bullies, away, away, you Rio! Sing fare thee well, my Liverpool gals, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. We're a Liverpool ship with a Liverpool crew. Away, you Rio! You can keep to the coast, but we're damned if we do, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. And away, bullies, away, away, you Rio! Sing fare thee well, me Liverpool gals, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. So blow ye winds westerly, long may ye blow. Away, you Rio! We're starved on this packet, good gods, let us go, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. And away, bullies, away, away, you Rio! Sing fare thee well, me Liverpool gals, for we're bound for the Rio Grande. Yeah!
I like it.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Nice.
Nice.
And then
and then this one. So we mentioned Patty West earlier.
I have a shirt.
She does have a shirt on.
Haha.
It's backwards. Oh, it won't be backwards in the recording though. Right.
That he designed.
I
you
did.
can get it in our Shanty
I
merch
did.
store.
We also have
The link is below.
a Paddy Doyle's boots shirt. If you're interested in that one as well. So Paddy West it's a four bitter. Also sometimes used as a capstan shanty. There was a lot of sort of crossover between the two of those, just because the capstan shanties could be longer and could require audience participation, but not necessarily. But anyway, so Paddy West was an infamous, also Irish, infamous boarding house keeper in Liverpool in sort of the latter days of sail, who provided captains with crew members as sort of a sideline job after training them up through somewhat dubious means, training them up to the point where the title Paddy Wester is a derisive term for a sailor who is useless. We'll go with useless. So there's actually a lot of vocabulary and sailing terminology in this one that I have to explain it to you because some part of it is part of the humor of it. It's almost like you don't know something's wrong until somebody tells you what's wrong, and then it's like, oh, I get it now. So the first thing that's mentioned is something called scouse, and scouse is a stew made from beef or lamb with potatoes and onions that is most commonly associated with Liverpool. I don't know if it's the birthplace of Liverpool, but it's associated so much with Liverpool that Liverpudlian, which is a term for somebody from Liverpool, is often interchangeable with the word scouser. So there you have that. So talking about the mate of a ship often refers to the first mate of a ship, and the first mate of a ship was the captain's second in command, who often handled a lot of sort of like the administrative duties, like the stuff the captain didn't want to. Yeah, the paperwork, the stuff the captain didn't want to deal with, as is with a lot of administrative positions. Yeah. And in case something happens with the captain, would also take over for that person. Bosun, which is actually spelled boatswain, but it's pronounced bosun, was served underneath the first mate, was almost a little bit of a tie between the first mate and sort of the crew proper of the ship. Was in charge of a lot of more of the sort of like practical things, also sometimes called a deck boss, but was in charge of things like anchors, cordage, keeping the crew in line, all that sort of thing. So when a bosun,
disciplinary,
some disciplinary,
yep.
So that's what a bosun is. So all the sails on a ship have names. I'm not going to tell them to you all of them. This would be a long video, and we're already halfway through the terminology used in this one. But there's something called a main royal. So royal sails are the very topmost sails. I want to say it's like out of 4 sails. Anyway, they're the very topmost sails. Not all sailing ships, I believe, have royals. But they're the topmost.
But if you had a very large, tall ship,
yes. And a main royal is the topmost sail on the main mast, and the main mast is the mast that has the largest sails on it. So all ships definitely have a main mast. I'm not sure all ships have a main royal. Yeah. Some of them only have, which is sort of the main mast by default.
Right.
Anyway, so there's something called a fore to'gainsail, which translated from sailor speak means fore top gallant sail, which would be, so the top gallant sails, which are sometimes shortened to gainsails, just because for just ease of communication, almost like verbal shorthand, what would be referred to as gainsails, were the, oh my god, where did I put it? They would be the the
most
top gallant
forward
sails.
sails.
Well, the fore part
Right.
means that they're forward. The top gallant sails will be the ones beneath the royals. So it's still pretty high. But so when the fore to gainsail comes along, then you know they're talking about the fore top gallant sail. So there is a couple of phrases. There's cross the line. Now, cross the line in sailing terms is actually a good thing.
Right.
At least the way that it's used here. You don't want to cross the line with the captain, but you do want to cross the line. And crossing the line is talking about the equator. And crossing the equator for the first time was a very momentous occasion for a sailor. And it's in one's sailing career. That could often involve any manner of celebrations, rituals, even hazings, that sort of thing. Even on modern ships, the first time a sailor crosses the equator, you'll find like even on like military and commercial vessels, like they still have celebrations on board. Similar thing with rounding the Horn. Going around Cape Horn is that the first time you go around Cape Horn is also considered to be a very, very sort of momentous occasion. And also just going around the Horn means if you've made it round the Horn at least once, it also generally means that you know what you're doing as a
Right, because otherwise you wouldn't have survived.
Correct. Yeah. What else did I write? Oh, and ship directions. Ship directions. And this is probably good that we're hitting this now. I swear, this is the last thing, and then we'll actually get into the song. So when you're talking about when you're standing on a ship, like say you're standing on the poop deck.
Yeah.
Ha ha.
The wheel.
You like how I brought that back?
Yep.
Actually, the wheel usually wasn't on the poop deck.
Oh, really?
No, it was on the one below it.
Huh. Not like in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so anyway,
Sometimes.
you're sidetracking. Stop that. Anyway, so when you're talking about directions on a ship, so they don't really use like left and right, forward and after, or left and
Backwards.
right, front and back, just because depending on where you were standing on the ship, those directions could change. Like if you're standing on the front of the ship and you're looking at something behind you, and you're looking at something off to like that side, but you're standing and looking back at the captain and you see something off that side, you say, well, it's to the left. Well, the captain who is looking this way is going to look this direction.
Right.
So
it's like those of you that have done theater, it's like stage directions.
left, stage right.
Right. They're always from
Correct.
the performer's perspective, even if the director is giving the instruction, it's always the same. So it's a fixed point based on the stage, and in this case, it's based on the orientation of the ship.
Correct.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about directions off a ship, fore is forward, simple enough. So front of the ship or ahead of the ship. Aft is behind the ship. Port is on the left side of the ship, and yeah, that's my left side. And starboard is on the right of the ship. Interestingly enough, port was in earlier days of sail was called larboard as a term for left, but both because it sounded similar to starboard as sort of like a parallel, but also because that would be the side where they loaded things on, so loading, larboard, that sort of thing. But as sailors went on, larboard sounds a lot like starboard.
So it creates confusion.
So it creates confusion. So they were just like, it's the side with the port on it.
Right.
And they just went with that.
Yep.
So that's why the left side of the ship is called the port. And I think that covers all of the terminology for this one.
The lyrics are down below
Lyrics
for this
are
song,
down
because
below.
there's lots of words in this.
There are lots of words. Luckily, you don't have to sing most of them. That's my job.
But it is a very funny song, though.
It is.
Yep.
It does have a chorus that everybody sings along with. So give me that E. Oh, time to drink some more of my applesauce.
I could demo. I could demo.
Yeah.
So the chorus goes, take off your dungaree jackets and give yourselves a rest, and we'll think on them cold nor'westers that we had at Paddy West's.
Nice.
Hey, thanks. I can do it.
I pitched it high enough. You can do it.
Yeah, it's good. No problem. So taking off your dungaree jacket. So those are like your weather coats and you know things that would would
keep you warm.
Deal with the weather that way. Give yourselves a rest, and we'll think on them cold nor'westers that we had at Paddy West, which we've already said, of course, that Paddy West was
it's a very unique
boarding
way of
house.
Training you.
Yeah, it was a boarding house, so yeah, it'll make more sense to get into.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, blow it one more time for me.
Yeah. No problem.
As I went walking down London Road, I came to Paddy West's house. He gave me a meal of American hash and said it was Liverpool scouse. He said there's a ship that's wanting hands and on her you must sign. Oh, the mate's a bastard, the bosun's worse, so she will suit you fine. Take off your dungaree jackets and give yourselves a rest, and we'll think on them cold nor'westers that we had at Paddy West. And it's when the meal was over, boys, the wind began to blow. Paddy sends me to the attic, the main royal for to stow. But when I got to the attic, no main royal could I find. So I turned myself to the window, boys, and I furled the window blind. Take off your dungaree jackets and give yourselves a rest, and we'll think on them cold nor'westers that we had at Paddy West. Oh my gosh. Now Paddy calls all hands on deck, their stations for to man. And his wife, she stands in the doorway with a bucket in her hand. Paddy sings out, now let her rip, and she flings the water our way, saying, clue in the fore to gain, so boy, she's taken in the spray. Take off your dungaree jackets and give yourselves a rest, and we'll think on them cold nor'westers that we had at Paddy West. Now seeing we're bound for the south, the boys to Frisco we was bound. Paddy, he calls for a length of rope and he lays it on the ground. We all stepped over and back again, and he says to me, that's fine. Now if ever they ask were you ever at sea, you can say you crossed the line. Take off your dungaree jackets and give yourselves a rest, and we'll think on them cold nor'westers that we had at Paddy West. Paddy says, now pay attention, these lessons you must learn. The starboard is where the ship she points, the right is called the stern. So look ye after your starboard port, and you will find northwest. And that's the way they teach you at the school of Paddy West. Take off your dungaree jackets and give yourselves a rest, and we'll think on them cold nor'westers that we had at Paddy West. And there's one more thing that you must do before you sail away. Just step around the table, boys, where the bullock's horn do lay. And if they ask, was you ever at sea, you say 10 times round the horn. And by Jesus, but I'm an old sailor man since the day that I was born. Take off your dungaree jackets and give yourselves a rest, and we'll think on them cold nor'westers that we had at Paddy West. Take off your dungaree jackets and give yourselves a rest, and we'll think on them cold nor'westers that we had at Paddy West.
Yep. Cross the line.
Oh boy.
Went
around the horn and across the line.
Yeah.
Just like on your shirt.
Just like on my shirt.
Ta-da!
Get your shirt at the store on the merch.
It's
Redbubble.
super soft.
It is. This
so
is like,
soft.
oh my gosh, it's like a pajama shirt.
Mm-hmm.
It's so soft. Yeah, and they come on lots of different things. And we have,
oh my gosh.
There's coasters too.
Yep.
All sorts of fun things. So go and check it out.
If you hold that up, we can see ourselves.
The link's down below there. So do check that out. Along with links to a bunch of other cool educational things if you want to find out more about just shanties in general, or different communities that have contributed to the shanty art form. Check out those things. And obviously the lyrics are below, as well as links to different recordings of different groups that have performed these songs that are actual professional shanty groups. And so check them out, follow them, and go support if there's stuff going on in your area. Or a lot of them are doing some streaming things too. So if you're at home or you're like us and you're on this side of the pond and there's not a shanty crew nearby, you can check out some of their online streaming stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
I'll know.
That's all I got.
Okay. Have a great week. Be safe. We love you. And we'll see you again next Sunday.
Bye.